This would just be my response to kinetic energy in resistance capacitor, or the conductive electricity is running through resistance, and that's all you would have to do. Before I speak too soon, what you're implying is that a gap in the circuit and a gap in the current would send momentum back. So that momentum already has automatic higher kinetic energy. Uh, I guess you try to just understand. I'm not really. I would say if it's an air track, if it's Lewin's air track, then you have different pressure, different barometric pressure that you can apply to the machine. So you can apply equal amount of pressure going one way, going the other way, or you can apply more pressure. So you can apply more pressure to mass one, and you can apply less pressure to mass two, which is bigger, and you can manipulate the pressure system. So if you apply more pressure and it hits a bigger mass, then it's going to have more velocity going the opposite way. Now, what I was getting at logically, you could just deduce in a circuit breaker that if you flip the switch and run the inductive electricity through a system and through a resistor, and you just keep running it through a resistor, your thought is, well, it's going to run through the resistor and then you're not running energy anymore, but you are going to be running energy. You just have to imply just the method of logictivity to the fact that you're going to be continually pumping electricity through the resistor, and the resistor is going to continually catch more and more energy. So you keep running, it hits the resistor and then it bounces back, and this side of the system has more energy and this side of the system has less energy. This side of the system is going to run more and more energy through as it picks up resistance, or sorry, as it picks up energy, because the resistor in the circuit breaker, remember, the resistor is just that little section, the little coiled section. It could be a coil or something in a conductor that is running the magnetism, the electromagnetism, the dielectricity through the system, and that slows down the current, and it jolts up whatever current goes through the resistor. Then it's going to bounce back some of that energy. So it's not Faraday's paradox where the energy was flowing back in at the end of the direct current. It's an actuated alternating current. So the alternating current hits the resistor, and then it sends some back, and then it continues to send more direct current through. So the alternating current is able to continually push more energy through at a higher speed. But that resistor is like an analog system in a computer, you could say, where the coil is different switches would conduce different electronic nodes, or modes rather, like nodes, like on off. It can be a switch or it can be a resistor. But a resistor, in the kinetic energy sense, if you have alternating current and you send your current all the way through and that energy is always pumping through that battery, then you can just have a separate line of current, and that current is always going to send more energy through. So I've said that about 3 times, but with the Walter Lewin paradox, where you have energy coming in at the end of your circuit, your direct current goes out, your direct current is switched off, and then you have more electricity. You have more electricity or electromagnetism going into the circuit breaker, like Faraday's paradox. That would be more conducive to E equals mc squared. E equals mc squared. The idea, obviously, that could have actually, the Faraday paradox could have propagated kinetic energy. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 mv squared. That could have propagated, like Faraday could have propagated that with his paradox in 1832, because the word kinetic energy, according to my knowledge, was not even a word until the 1850s. And then Einstein was born in the 1860s. So you can see my indifference with Faraday, and then the etherists come through and they completely ignore the Faraday paradox, whereas they take control of the Rutherford atom, blah blah blah. But not to say that it's like meaningless and all that ether stuff is good. I mean, it's science, but I would say it couldn't compete with E equals mc squared, because it's kinetic. If, let's just pretend the Faraday paradox created kinetic energy equals 1/2 mv squared, mass velocity squared, instead of just mv, or mv, let's say mv squared, because mv squared seems more accurate. But even in mv squared, you could just have your mass, which was your current, and then you have two velocities if you have that circuit breaker, not that circuit breaker, but the resistor, because you have a velocity going in, and then the resistor sends the velocity back out. So I don't know how they could have they might have, predicted that in the 17th. Leibniz could have predicted that, but yeah, just to show some courtesy, he probably predicted that, and then later in the 1830s, that's when the resistors were getting heavily used, or the electricity for that matter. So maybe that answers the question.